Hello friends, this is a recap of the third month in my challenge to take art from hobby to full-time job in 1 year. A lot changed this month, but I'm very excited about all of it. So first off, if you remember in my last video, I mentioned that I was going to start looking for part-time jobs. Actually, right after filming that, I got a call with a job offer. I will still be putting 40 hours a week into this business. I'm definitely not putting my art business on the back burner. It's definitely not taking a back seat. There are 2 front burners and 2 front seats for a reason. In fact, I actually think that having a part-time job is going to make me a much better business owner. I had a lot of ideas that are going to take a lot of time and nurturing to grow, and I had been feeling like because I rely on art as my sole source of income, I was having to rush those ideas a lot more than I wanted to. So now, because all my bills are covered by my part-time job, all of the money that I make from art can be reinvested in my art business, and I can actually take time on my longer-term art ideas without having to panic about making profit right now. Definitely am afraid that I'm overdoing it, but I also think that my brain kind of craves this. I'm the type of person who has a really hard time prioritizing tasks if I don't have structure. I often will kind of freeze for the entire day because I can't decide what I want to start first. But once I have some structure, like I have to wake up at the same time every day, or I have a limited number of days per week that I can work on my art business, it feels a lot easier to just start and stay focused. When it's up to you every single day, whether you sleep in or get up early and start work, it can be really tough to choose to get up early and work every single day when no one's holding you to that standard. But I think it will make it easier for me to hold myself to that standard now that I have a part-time job, because if I'm having to get up at 6 a.m. 3 days a week for that job, then I can also get up at 6 a.m. the other 4 days to work on my business. I'm sure it will be an adjustment, but this business is so new, I feel like I've been changing things and adjusting every single month while I find my footing. And then the other big change is that I launched a new collection last month. If you've watched all of these videos, you know that in the first couple of videos, I was really trying to stay focused on one idea, which was my Fable collection, and not get distracted. I have a lot of ideas for what I want the Fable collection to be that will take a lot of time and will require me to kind of put my head down and not have for sale work for a while, which again was fine until art became my sole source of income and I needed to focus on making profit faster. So while I'm still working on that behind the scenes, I did really want to prioritize a collection that I felt like could bring in money now, which is why I launched a collection of pet portraits on Etsy. You can watch the video that I made about that process if you haven't already, but I'm really hoping that this can be something that I can grow and rely on. By doing this collection, I also really realized that I am a lot more productive when I can break my work up into smaller projects. It doesn't feel as overwhelming to plan. I can kind of capitalize on that initial dopamine that you get from starting something new. And because I've always worked in agencies, my brain is kind of wired to think in multiple projects, if that makes sense. I feel like in most jobs, if you are bored or burnt out with your work, you kind of just end up getting distracted or zoning out or procrastinating. But when I worked in an agency, because I was working with multiple clients, if I got burnt out or bored with the work for one client, I could just shift focus to another client. So it almost kind of felt like I was procrastinating, but I was getting work done with both. It's kind of like when you're super full at dinner and you're like, I couldn't eat another bite, and then they bring out dessert and you're like, I could eat another bite. So if I feel like I've been doing dog commissions for all of eternity and I'm sick of it, rather than actually getting distracted and just sitting on my phone for a bit, I can get distracted by working on the Fable collection. And then once I hit a dead end with that, I can go back to working on dog commission. Honestly, the best part of owning this business is that I can structure it in a way that works for my motivation. And while juggling projects might be a recipe for burnout for you, it really helps my productivity. Okay, all that being said, let's get into my monthly checklist. If you've watched all of these videos, you know the drill by now, so we're gonna go through this checklist a little quicker than we have in the past. So I completed 9 out of 10 of my monthly goals. I uploaded twice on YouTube, sent my monthly newsletter out, monitored my marketing data, created and listed 18 new prints, promoted my work 5 times, was consistent with outreach, took 1 day off a week, connected with y'all, and stayed focused on one idea. Where I dropped the ball was social media, shocker. I have told myself about 1,000,000 times that I just need to start scheduling content out in advance, but for some reason I haven't been doing it. But I did start a new Instagram to market this pet portrait collection, and it feels a lot easier to run because I actually know what I want to say on there. So I do have my social content scheduled out all through April, so I at least know that I will be hitting this monthly goal next month. One note on outreach, something that I realized this month is that I am so scared of putting myself out there. I really want this business to be based on genuine connection rather than just kind of putting things out into the void and hoping that opportunities will fall in my lap. So I have really tried to come up with a plan for direct outreach, like messaging dog owners and saying, hey, your dog is cute. I do pet portraits. Do you want one? or messaging local stores and saying, hey, I have a collection of sweatshirts. Can I sell them in your store? Or messaging artists and small business owners and asking to collaborate or connect. But I'm just very afraid of being annoying, I guess. I don't know. There's so many scams nowadays, and I have found myself not answering people who've reached out to me, even when I like what they're offering. I've had brands reach out to me and ask if they can send me stuff. I've had little online magazines ask if they can feature me, and I would love to say yes. Like, it all sounds amazing, but I'm just very afraid of getting scammed because it's very hard to tell what's real now. And I feel like half the time when I will look up companies or opportunities that sound really good and legit to me, I'll see like hundreds of Reddit posts saying, yeah, no, that's a scam. So I feel like I'm afraid of coming across that way to people or hurting the reputation of my brand by coming across as like too salesy. But on the other hand, I want to put myself out there because I don't want to be the type of person who just waits for opportunities to fall in my lap, especially because lately I have had potential opportunities fall in my lap and I'm afraid to say yes because I cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's a scam. I've seen a lot of advice from established art business owners who have built their brand off of outreach. Like, they would just message celebrities and say, hey, I make handmade jewelry, can I send you some? And that celebrity would post about their product for free and then their business would blow up. But I just feel like shit doesn't work like that anymore. I remember even when I worked for a nonprofit, we would reach out to local influencers who had like 600 followers and ask if they could post about our fundraiser, and they would immediately send back their rates. Which, like, I get it. Social media is their job and they should get paid to do it, but it does really just solidify that the internet is not what it used to be. It's hard to know what's real anymore, so people are hesitant to say yes, especially without getting paid up front. And social media also just isn't a casual place to share your organic thoughts and feelings anymore. Everything is monetized, everything is an ad, and there are so many scams. Anyway, I'm hoping that knowing what I can trust and being brave about putting myself out there is something that I will just get better at with time. Lately, I've been very comforted by knowing that people who I look up to and see as really brave and confident experience the same fear and doubt that I do. I think we all have it in our head that some people are just inherently fearless, or that everyone who achieves greatness overcame fear before achieving greatness. But I don't think that's true. I think everyone gets scared. I think the people who achieve greatness just don't let fear stop them. It is so unlikely that I will just wake up one day and not be scared anymore without even trying to do the things that scare me. So I think I really just need to feel the fear and do it anyway. So, on to my March to-do list. I did 4 out of 5 of the things that I planned to do. As I mentioned earlier, I did create new Etsy listings, and I did create a new Instagram to promote those listings. You can follow it at Corduroy and Friends. The one thing that I didn't do is learn paid ad strategy. I mentioned in my last video that I'm very skeptical that ads would work for me, and even if I did get sales, I'm even more skeptical that it would ever be profitable. Honestly, I kind of thought that I was going to get slammed in the comments for saying that. I was fully expecting to get a lot of, well, yeah, you lost money because you had absolutely no strategy. Don't blame Google for your own stupidity. But I actually did have a lot of you reach out and say that you've had the same experience, and that it felt like both on Google and on Meta, you were just dumping money into ads and seeing very little return. I am in the middle of creating an intro video for my digital marketing series, which I'm calling Is Digital Marketing Dead? I'm going to talk about a lot of these digital marketing tactics that used to be really lucrative for small businesses that might not be worth it anymore now that AI has allowed corporations and content farms to really scale up their output, and then also talk about what our options are for marketing moving forward. Anyway, as I was doing research for that video, I did kind of make my mind up that paid ads will probably never be worth it for me. So I guess I did learn paid ad strategy. I just decided that my strategy is I will not be paying for ads. And then, like I said before, I did get a part-time job, which I'm very excited about, and I did find a low-effort solution for social media. All right, let's talk about performance metrics. So in total, across my Green Velvet Instagram and my new Corduroy and Friends Instagram, I got 5.3 thousand views, 320 interactions, I gained 127 followers, and I posted 5 pieces of content. All of that content was on my Corduroy Instagram. I didn't post it all on my Green Velvet Instagram. So I did make a separate Instagram to promote those pet portraits, and I do plan on creating separate Instagram accounts for future collections. I know it's going to be more work to have to build up a separate audience every single time, but I just think there's going to be no audience overlap between those two collections. The whole purpose of this Instagram was to market my Jack Russell Terrier drawings to Jack Russell Terrier owners. And the next collection that I want to work on is going to be Cincinnati architectural drawings marketed to Cincinnati locals. And I just don't feel like there's going to be enough audience overlap for me to post those on the same account. And honestly, I don't think it's going to feel like more work because it's taken me more brain power to try and figure out how to make this work on one account than it has to just manage multiple accounts. Okay, moving to YouTube, I got about 21,000 views in the month of March. I gained 788 subscribers. And as I mentioned last month, I was monetized on the very last day of February, so March was my first month being monetized, and I made $102.08. My email newsletter this month was specifically to promote my pet portraits. I was informed after I sent it that it did go to the promotions tab in Gmail, so it makes sense that my open rate was a lot lower than it was last month. At the time of sending, I had 82 people on my email list. 53 of them opened the email, which is a 65% open rate, and 8 clicked on the link to my Etsy, so that's a 10% click rate. My website traffic went down a lot last month because I wasn't promoting my website, I was just promoting my Etsy account. So I had 153 sessions, 5 orders, and I made $88.60. So my Etsy performance really started tanking mid-March. I'm hoping it's just recalibrating because I posted a lot of new products, but I also think a huge part of the problem is that I posted a YouTube video in the middle of March talking about my new Etsy listings, and a lot of people visited my Etsy because they were just curious, but they weren't favoriting things or adding things to their cart or buying anything. So Etsy saw a huge increase in my traffic, but not a huge increase in people engaging with my products. So they're thinking, damn, these products must suck, and now they're not showing them to people. So please do me a favor, if you're visiting my Etsy just because you're curious, please just favorite something and add it to your cart. You don't have to buy anything. I just don't want my conversion rate to tank on Etsy because they will stop showing my listings to people if nobody's converting. Anyway, I got 1,208 views, 11 orders. I made $710.40. I got 146 favorites and 4 people left me reviews. Overall, this was still pretty good, but you will see in my Etsy listing check-in video, my performance really starts to tank at the end of March. So looking at what sold, I sold 8 custom Delft paintings, 1 Jack Russell Terrier Delft painting, 1 Fox and Crow book plate print, 2 Fox and Crow shirts, 1 Frog and Scorpion sweater, which I'm very excited about. This is one of my favorite things in my shop, and I think this is the first time anyone's ever bought it. And then 4 Collectors Club subscriptions. All right, moving on to my favorite part, which is charting my progress. So I made $710.40 on Etsy, which was about $100 higher than last month. But because I didn't sell any large commissions, my website income dropped significantly. This is the first month that I made money on YouTube, but even with that, my total came out to $901, which was $29 lower than last month. Because I had a higher goal income for March than I did for February, I was only 50% of the way toward my income goal compared to 84% last month. I really put all my eggs in my Etsy basket last month, so 88.9% of my sales came from Etsy, and then 11 came from my website. And then looking at my benchmarks, my goal is to sell 10 commissions every month. Because I sold 8 dog portraits, I was 80% of the way toward that goal. I was only 6% of the way toward my goal of selling 30 prints per month. Because I hit my subscriber and watch time goal in February, those will stay at 100. I was 37% of the way toward my Etsy sales goal, which is an improvement from the last 2 months. I didn't make any progress towards selling in person, and my sales goal went down to 50%. So we had progress toward 2 benchmarks decline, 2 improve, and then 3 stay the same. And then lastly, my April to-do list. So my plan is to create new Etsy product listings, which actually, let me show you some of these because I got samples in. I got this cute little glass, these 2 shirts, and then this embroidered sweatshirt. My next to-do list item is scheduling social content through May, and then I want to start on my local Cincinnati collection, and then start developing my marketing video series. So check back in a month and see if I did those things. As always, I am glad you're here. Thank you for listening.